What's up guys, my name is Ivan Valdovinos, and on this channel I provide tips, tricks, advice, and strategies for your graduate school applications. So if you are new here, consider subscribing. Today, I am going to share with you the funding package I was offered when I was accepted into the PhD in higher education program at the University of Arizona. Alright, so this funding package was a little bit unique because it was a verbal offer. I did not receive any mail, I did not receive an email, it was all verbally, and I'll explain why. So the first thing I want to say is that I already had ties with the University of Arizona since my undergraduate career. So as an undergraduate, I was accepted into a summer research program at the University of Arizona, and so I ended up going for a whole summer. I was connected with the faculty researcher in the higher education department, and he was my mentor for the whole summer. I, developed my own research project and presented the results, and so I developed this connection with the faculty member who I kept in touch with for a while. I still keep in touch with him now, and so he's become one of my mentors, and so I already had ties to the University of Arizona. What happened was I applied for the program, the PhD in higher education, was accepted, obviously that's why I'm making this video, and my mentor who I wrote about was this professor who I worked with in the past, and so he was going to provide me with funding through his research projects. And so he recently he had been offered a bunch of money from the institution to run to work on this project with graduate students, undergraduates, as well as other staff that he was going to hire. And so the plan was for me to jump onto this research project, which is going to be like a 5-year long project, and I would be paid a stipend, and if I worked at least 20 hours, I would be able to have my tuition paid for, the fees paid for, I would have health insurance as well as the stipend that I mentioned. So that was the plan, and it was all verbal. And so what happened was he called me one time, since we exchanged numbers when I was his mentee during the summer research, and he called me and he told me about the plan. And so I did receive an email from one of the administrators in the College of Education at the University of Arizona, and she was telling me that I need to fill out this form because she was preparing my official funding letter. I never received that letter, but the process was starting. So then what happened was the pandemic hit, and my mentor called me again. He told me he lost all his funding and that he wasn't going to be able to fund me, but he still wanted me to go attend the program in case the pandemic was over and he got his funding back. And so that was a critical point in my decision making, because I was between two schools, and one of them was the University of Arizona, just because I already had the connection, the funding was there. And so I was committed. I went to go visit the campus. I went to go visit him prior to the pandemic, and I was already deciding on going there. But he was very transparent with me. He told me every single thing that was happening, and then he lost the funding, and he told me that as well. And so he told me that he didn't want to put me in a situation where I did not have funding that was secured, and he would understand if I did not accept. And so that was really my funding package. It was all verbal. So my general thoughts, so I was obviously excited to receive funding, fully funded program, even though it was verbal and they were working on the offer in an email and like a physical paper that were gonna mail me. So I was excited at that point, but then, you never know what's gonna happen. You never know what's gonna happen. And so when the pandemic hit, he lost his funding. And so that was devastating, because I shifted my mindset. I had to look at other programs more closer and make my decision based on that. And so one of the things that I would suggest is that you don't rely on verbal communication. It needs to be in physical form. It either needs to be an email or like a snail mail sent to your house. You want to have this physical form, because you can, if let's say they lose their funding, for example, you have something in writing that shows that they are committed to giving you funding. So maybe the College of Education might be able to provide the funding for at least a year or all 4 years. But if you don't have it in writing, then it doesn't exist. And so when someone's offering you a funding package, if it's your potential advisor, have them give it to you in writing in an email, not just in a phone call. You want it to be in an email format or a physical document. So make sure that you are getting these physical documents, because it's more like I see it more as like a legal document that's binding to whatever's in that document, versus the verbal where, someone can just say like, oh, I never said that, or they can change what they told you. So you want to make sure that you get this in writing and be persistent with this. Let them know, like, I want this in writing. I sent the College of Education administrator a bunch of emails saying, like, I need this in writing before I can decide yes or no. Before I can provide you with any more documentation and more information about myself, I need the offer in writing. And I stated that a lot of times, and they were working on my letter. And so I didn't make any decisions until I received that physical form, that email or that physical form with my funding breakdown and what they were offering me for how many years and what was included in that funding package. So make sure that you are asking for these physical documents, these legal binding documents. So obviously, like I mentioned, I did not end up attending because really the funding, I wasn't receiving anything. I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I had to go find my own funding after accepting, because what would have happened if I accepted and then ended up not securing funding before I got there? That would mean that I would have to borrow loans from the federal government, which I told myself, like, as a PhD applicant, I'm not going to accept an offer unless it's free. And I told myself that before I even applied to programs and while I was deciding. And so I did not apply for federal financial aid, which only offers you loans when you are at the graduate level, even if you're a low income student. And so I decided, you know what, University of Arizona is not for me. It's not offering me anything that's secure. I don't want to do extra work to find jobs, because that's just not a good option. I don't know if I'm going to get something, if they're even going to be offering assistantships because of the pandemic. I'm going to be completing my work remotely. And so all these factors played a role in why I chose not to attend, but funding was a big piece. I do want to mention though that if you are interested in working with a professor on research, you can still work with them even if you don't attend their institution. So my plan with this professor is to work with him on some projects that he's doing that are related to what my interests are in the near future, and because I do have this connection with him. So I suggest that if you are interested in something like that, that you start making those connections early. That way you're able to jump on some of their research projects because you can do them remotely. All right, so that concludes my video on my funding package offer for the PhD in higher education at the University of Arizona. Let me know if you have any questions about funding or really anything graduate school related, and I will get to you as soon as I can. I will see you in the next video.